Let's continue um, from the last 50 words of Vedic Heritage 10 audiobook. The impression Gurudev made on people was extraordinary. It is said that if you once looked into his eyes, you would never forget him. Wild animals stepped aside for him, nature saw his every need, and everyone who came into his presence regarded him with deep respect. The man we know as Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, this is his monastic name. We do not know his family or given name, was attending Allahabad University when he heard about a great Swami who was visiting a nearby town. He made it a practice of visiting holy men whenever he got the chance. One evening after school, he and a friend traveled by bicycle to the town and found the house where the Mahatma was staying. They knocked at the door. It was well after sundown. They were admitted and told to walk up the stairs to the upper room and sit on the floor, and to be quiet and not make a single sound. It was pitch black. They felt their way up the stairs and sat down as instructed. After about an hour, they were admitted to the room where Gurudev sat. They again sat on the floor in pitch blackness and in silence. Maharishi tried to see, but there was no light at all. Then a car traveling on a nearby mountain road turned at just the right angle, and for a second its headlights shone through a window, lighting up the face of Gurudev. In that second, Maharishi's life changed forever. He found himself totally lost in devotion to this master he had never before seen. As soon as the opportunity presented itself, he asked Gurudev for permission to become his disciple. Gurudev said, "Are you married?" "No," was the answer. "What are you doing in life now?" "I am attending Allahabad University," was the reply. "You should finish what you start. When you are through with your studies, if you are still interested, see me again." After graduation, Maharishi again approached Gurudev, but he said, "You must get your father's permission first." It was very difficult for Maharishi to convince his father of the benefits of a spiritual life. He tried for some time to secure his permission but could not succeed. Finally, one day Gurudev said, "Ask your father to come here to talk with me." The father and master had a lengthy and profound talk. Gurudev said, "If a man has four sons and one wants to become an engineer, one a physicist, one a businessman, and one a doctor, it is all right. But there is another way to go, the way of the spiritual life. If you want your son to become a happy man, a successful man, then with great confidence you can let him go and choose his own path." The father answered, "I will give my son permission to come to you." That same evening, Maharishi left home to be with his new master. He was 23 years old. He received the monastic name Brahmachari Mahesh. Later, he was known as Mahesh Yogi. The northern seat of the Shankaracharya at Badarikashram at Yotirmath, had been vacant for at least 165 years. No holy man in all of India had been deemed worthy to serve in that capacity. The requirements were stringent. According to tradition, this position could be filled only by a dandy Swami, who was highly learned, highly intelligent, a master of the Vedas and the other scriptures, and who upheld the Advaita view. He had to be free of desires, completely self-controlled, and an expert at teaching the techniques of yoga, union with the divine. Gurudev met all these requirements and more. His holiness so resonated in the air that people for miles around could sense his presence. At the very sight of him, a person's worry seemed of no consequence. Although people didn't realize it at the time, he had become a master of masters. For quite a number of years, he had been repeatedly approached and asked to accept the position of Shankaracharya of Yotirma. Always he refused. He preferred the life of a recluse. But his master's last conversation with him urged him to come out. About half a year after Maharishi became his brahmachari, Gurudev accepted the position of Shankaracharya of Yotirma. Elaborate preparations were made for the investiture. The ceremony was to be held at Varanasi and was to be part of the ninth All India Shantan Dharma Sammelan celebration. Delegates from all over India were invited. 2 days before the festivities, Gurudev vanished. There was a great commotion and many rumors. Some were in favor of appointing someone else as Shankaracharya, but Swami Gyanananda, who was highly respected, advised postponement of the conference. Last minute telegrams were sent throughout India announcing an indefinite postponement. 21 days later, Gurudev appeared in Varanasi. News of his arrival spread quickly, and within an hour, a group of dignitaries approached him and again requested that he become Shankaracharya. They said that he alone was capable of reviving the Holy Spirit of the Shankaracharya seat that had remained vacant so long. He remained silent, which they took as acceptance. This time he was not asked to present himself for a formal investiture ceremony. At sunrise on April 1st, 1941, a small group of people led by Swami Gyananandaji arrived at Gurudev's ashram, known as Brahmin Was. Gurudev had constructed it 5 years earlier in memory of his guru. Gurudev was anointed according to the prescribed rites and was taken out in a grand procession to the conference amidst the sounds of conch shells, trumpets, and the chanting of Vedic hymns. As Shankaracharya, Gurudev had two tasks. First, he had to reconstruct the temple at Yotirmath and re-establish the institution. Second, he had to spread the message of the Shankaracharya Advaita Vedanta far and wide. There were suggestions for raising funds from the larger cities in northern India, but he rejected all of this. He took the responsibility of financing the reconstruction of the Shankaracharya order himself and refused donations from everyone. This was an enormously expensive project, yet from somewhere all the needed money appeared, without any donations being accepted. His followers wondered how he could do it all himself. He simply stated, "No human has a hand in this." A sign was erected in Jyotish Pith that said, "Worthy of worship, infinitely bestowed, the Universal Guru Shankaracharya Jyotirmath, Swami Brahmananda Saraswati Maharaj, prohibits those coming for his darshan, puja, diksha, etc., to make any offerings of wealth." It was the first time the title "infinitely bestowed," which had been given to him by his followers, had ever been used for the Shankaracharya. Gurudev toured all over India, attracting thousands wherever he went. His darshan was now easy to obtain, but it came with the risk of lifelong attachment to him. Many of those who came into his presence became part of his army of followers. They would ask how they could serve. He would tell them to remain devoted to their respective gurus and faithful to their teachings. He conducted many ceremonies on special days all throughout India. He was the center of attraction at the 1942 Kumbh Mela in Allahabad. In Delhi, he presided over a great yagya on the banks of the Yamuna. Thousands of people had come to watch. It was a cold winter morning with the sky darkened by thick black clouds. There was lightning and thunder, and the threat of cold rain and hail at any moment. Gurudev came out of his tent and looked at the sky. He said quietly, "If it rains, it would cause a lot of disturbance." Then he walked back into his tent. An hour later, when the yagya was to begin, the sky was clear, the sun was shining, and there was a mild breeze. In other areas stricken with drought, when Gurudev would visit, the sky would open up and it would rain for days. The question of how Gurudev financed the reconstruction of so many temples and purchased so many buildings kept coming up. In 1950, the ruler of Dalipur state, Pashupati Pratap Singh, visited Gurudev for darshan. He told the master, "I have a mansion in Allahabad which I would like to donate to you so that you could have a Shankaracharya ashram in the holy city." Gurudev declined the offer, gently reminding the Raja that he did not accept donations. When the Raja persisted, Gurudev agreed to purchase it. He called the Raja's secretary and asked about the price. He said, "Last year we had this property up for sale for the price of 100,000 rupees, but the most we were offered for it was 65,000, so the sale did not go through." The next day he handed the money to the Raja, who suggested he send a man with him to Allahabad to record the deed. This caused quite a stir, since it was such a public transaction. The old question emerged again: how can a person who has been a recluse since the age of 9 and who never accepts any donations of money afford to pay all of the expenses of the reconstruction of the order in cash? At last Gurudev expanded his explanation. He said, At the time of the Mahabharata, when the Kauravas shamelessly tried to disrobe Draupadi in public, from where did there come yard upon yard of sari that she was wearing? And it was of the same color and design, not different. Thousands of yards of sari material. When God gives, He gives all that is required. The whole thing, the real thing. What could take place at the time of the Mahabharata can take place now. God has not changed. The incident to which Gurudev referred was an event reported in the epic poem The Mahabharata, in which Draupadi, the wife of the Pandavas, had been won by the Kauravas in a rigged dice game. They decided to humiliate her and the Pandavas by unwrapping her to see what they had won. A sari is a dress worn by Indian women consisting of about 7 yards of silk wrapped around the body a few times. When the Kauravas tried to disrobe Draupadi, she silently prayed to Lord Krishna not to let it happen. As they unwrapped silk from her body, more appeared. As fast as they could unwrap it, more appeared, yard after yard, until they finally gave up in exhaustion. One day, Gurudev was visited by one of India's most distinguished philosophers, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, who introduced him to two American philosophers, Doctors Kangar and Shilpe. Dr. Radhakrishnan told Gurudev that Dr. Kangar would like to hear something on Vedanta. He would like your assistance in experiencing the truth, the essence Brahman. Gurudev said, the Vedantic truth is self-evident. It is light itself. It needs no other light to illuminate it. Dr. Kangar said, but it can be that the techniques mentioned in the Vedas to attain the supreme are of no avail. Gurudev said, the techniques are not there to throw light on Brahman. They are there to dispel of the darkness of ignorance. They destroy ignorance little by little, but they do not illuminate Brahman. Brahman itself is illumination. Just as the sun is found to be always shining, but clouds can darken the sky. The wind can blow away the clouds and reveal the fact that the sun is shining, but the wind cannot make the sun shine. All techniques are intended to destroy ignorance, but they do not reveal the innermost self, the Atman. The self is light, it is eternal, and it is the witness of all. It may be helpful at this point to tell some stories of Gurudev that other disciples have told. Brahmachari Satyanand, who is now a Brahmachari of Maharishi, but was first a fellow Brahmachari of Gurudev, tells about how he met Gurudev. I have paraphrased the story based on notes taken during a conversation with Brahmachari Satyanand. Satyanand said that he had been told many stories about holy men by his mother when he was a child. He grew up looking at holy men in much the same way a Western child might look at Santa Claus. He would visit holy men whenever he got the chance. Over the years, he noticed that they never lived up to his expectation of them. As he approached his adult years, he came to the conclusion that no one of them were genuinely holy. Satyanand held a job in a factory. one of his fellow workers was a follower of Gurudev. This was before he became the Shankaracharya. This fellow worker used to talk all day long about the glorious master he had met and how wonderful it was to be in his presence. Satyanand made some remarks about all holy men being charlatans, which angered his friend. It became a game with Satyanand to see how quickly he could make his friend lose his temper. Day after day, his friend would say something about Gurudev, and Satyanand would say something nasty in return, causing his friend to lose his temper. Satyanand said he used to stay up late thinking of nasty things to say about Gurudev. One day, Satyanand's friend failed to react. No matter how slanderous Satyanand's remark might be, his friend did not get angry. Toward the end of the day, Satyanand asked his friend what was wrong. I have said every terrible thing I can think of about your Gurudev, and you are not getting angry. What is wrong with you? His friend replied, "It occurred to me that you are a fool. You have never met my master, so you don't know what you're talking about. Why should I get upset over the remarks of a fool?" Satyanand thought this made sense. He decided to go with his friend to meet his Gurudev. After that, his remarks would have their desired effect. After work, the two traveled by bicycle to a nearby town where Gurudev was staying. They reached the house and were led to a large room where about 30 people waited to be let in to see Gurudev. The time of the darshan was 7 p.m. Satyanand and his friend sat on the floor and waited. 7 o'clock came and no one was admitted. 7:30 came and still no one was admitted. Satyanand had a thought. If he is a real holy man, he knows I am out here and that's the reason he isn't letting anyone in. 8 o'clock came and went. Satyanand's suspicions became stronger. 8:30 came and still no one was admitted. Satyanand was sure he was the reason no one was being admitted. What am I to do about it? He thought. If I get up and leave as soon as I am gone, he will let everyone in and they will all know it was because of me they had to wait so long. Satyanand said he felt terrible at having slandered a real saint. At 9 o'clock the door opened and everyone was admitted. Satyanand hung back to let everyone else go in first. His plan was to leave as soon as everyone else had gone in. His friend stopped him, however. "Where are you going?" he asked. "You have waited all this time to see the master, and now you turn to go." His friend pulled him into the room. Satyanand walked past Gurudev without looking at him. His eyes were on the floor. He walked to the farthest corner of the room, sat on the floor, and stared at the floor. After a short time, Gurudev told everyone to go and rest. Satyanand let everyone leave. Then he quickly walked past Gurudev, but his friend again stopped him. His friend said, Guruji, I would like you to meet a friend of mine. He works at the factory with me and he has been saying some. It is all right, interrupted Gurudev. He looked at Satyanand and said, Everything is all right now? Satyanand said, Yes. Good, go and rest now. The two friends rode their bicycles back toward their homes in silence. At last, Satyananda's friend said, Well, what do you think of my Gurudev now? Satyanand remained silent. After a few minutes, his friends repeated his question, but Satyanand didn't say anything. Once more, his friend asked, but Satyanand remained silent. At last, his friend grabbed Satyanand's handlebars and forced him to stop. Has the cat got your tongue? He asked. I want to know what you think of the master now you have met him. Satyanand looked at his friend and addressed him with a term of great respect. He said, Babaji, it is true that I will be indebted to you for the rest of my life for introducing me to my Gurudev, but just now I don't want to talk. Dr. Rush R.P. Barma. This is next story. Dr. Rush R.P. Varma was also a follower. Let's finish here. Let's make another audio record after this one.